Anxiety often feels like a relentless force holding us back, a constant reminder of our fears and insecurities. But what if we viewed it differently? What if anxiety was not a threat, but a signal and indicator that something important is happening within us? This shift in perspective can transform how we approach our lives and the challenges we face. When we experience anxiety, it's easy to fall into the trap of labeling it as purely negative. Our hearts race, our minds spiral with endless what ifs, and our bodies feel tense and overwhelmed. These sensations are unpleasant, no doubt, but they also serve a purpose. Anxiety is our brain's way of telling us that something matters deeply to us. It's a signal that we care about the outcome of a situation, whether it's an upcoming presentation, a difficult conversation, or a major life decision. Understanding this can be the first step toward reducing the hold anxiety has over us. Instead of fighting the feeling or trying to suppress it, we can begin to listen to it. What is this anxiety trying to tell us? What fear or concern is it bringing to light? Often, the answers to these questions reveal a deeper truth about ourselves, our values, aspirations, and areas where we seek growth. For instance, feeling anxious about a big project at work might indicate that we value excellence and are invested in our professional success. Anxiety before a public speech might show that we care about connecting with others and making an impact. By recognizing anxiety as a signal, we can reframe it as a guide rather than an obstacle. This doesn't mean we should let anxiety dictate our actions or allow it to paralyze us. Instead, we can use it as a tool for self-awareness. When anxiety arises, it's an opportunity to pause and reflect. What is triggering this response? Is it rooted in reality, or is it a product of our mind exaggerating potential risks? This reflection can help us separate genuine concerns from imagined fears, enabling us to respond with clarity and purpose. Another important aspect of viewing anxiety as a signal is acknowledging its role in personal growth. Growth often requires stepping outside our comfort zones, and this can naturally trigger feelings of anxiety. The fear of the unknown, the possibility of failure, or the pressure to succeed can all contribute to this response. But if we view anxiety through the lens of growth, it becomes clear that these feelings are not a sign of weakness, they are a sign of courage. They show that we are willing to challenge ourselves, to face uncertainty, and to pursue something meaningful. It's also helpful to understand the biological basis of anxiety. Our brains are wired to detect threats and respond with a fight or flight mechanism. This response was crucial for survival in our evolutionary past. But in the modern world, it can be triggered by situations that are not life-threatening, like speaking in public or taking on new responsibilities. By recognizing this, we can approach our anxiety with compassion. It's simply our brain doing its job, even if it's a little overzealous at times. This self-compassion can reduce the intensity of our anxiety and create space for us to address it constructively. One practical way to work with anxiety as a signal is to focus on mindfulness. Mindfulness involves staying present and observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. When anxiety arises, instead of resisting it, we can acknowledge it. I feel anxious right now, and that's okay. This simple act of acknowledgement can help us stay grounded and prevent us from being swept away by anxious thoughts. Over time, mindfulness can strengthen our ability to respond to anxiety with curiosity and calm rather than fear and avoidance. Another key aspect of this approach is reframing failure. Anxiety often stems from a fear of failure, but failure is not the end, it's a step on the path to success. Each failure teaches us something valuable, providing insights that can guide us toward our goals. By embracing this mindset, we can reduce the fear that fuels our anxiety and develop a more resilient attitude toward challenges. In summary, anxiety is not the enemy, it's a messenger. It signals that we are engaged in something that matters, something that has the potential to shape our lives in meaningful ways. By listening to this signal, reflecting on its message, and approaching it with compassion and curiosity, we can turn anxiety from a source of fear into a source of empowerment. When faced with anxiety, the prospect of taking action can feel overwhelming. The sheer magnitude of what lies ahead, coupled with the mental weight of countless what-ifs, can leave us paralyzed. It's in these moments that the power of starting small comes into play. Taking one small, meaningful step can break the cycle of inertia and create the momentum needed to move forward. The beauty of starting small lies in its simplicity. Anxiety often arises when we focus too much on the bigger picture, on all the steps required to achieve a goal, or on the potential challenges we might face along the way. This kind of thinking can quickly become overwhelming, making the path ahead feel insurmountable. By narrowing our focus to just one small step, we shift our attention from the daunting scale of the journey to something manageable and actionable. This shift in focus can provide immediate relief from the mental burden of anxiety. Taking a small step also helps build confidence. When we're anxious, our minds tend to magnify risks and downplay our abilities. We question whether we're capable of handling the challenges ahead, and this doubt can make us hesitant to act. However, completing even a single small task can prove to ourselves that we are capable. It's a reminder that progress is possible no matter how small it may seem in the moment. Each small success builds a foundation of confidence, making it easier to tackle the next step. This approach is grounded in the principle of momentum. Just as a tiny push can set a heavy object in motion, taking a small step can initiate a chain reaction of progress. Momentum works because action creates a sense of achievement, and that achievement fuels further action. When we see that our efforts are making a difference, we become more motivated to keep going. Over time, the accumulation of small steps can lead to significant progress, even if the starting point felt impossibly far away. Another important aspect of taking a small step is its ability to shift our mindset. Anxiety often traps us in a cycle of overthinking, where we analyze every possible outcome and second-guess every decision. This mental spiral can keep us stuck, as we expend all our energy on worrying rather than acting. By taking a small step, we disrupt this cycle. Action shifts our focus from thinking to doing, which can quiet the mind and reduce the intensity of our anxious thoughts. It's also worth noting that small steps are inherently adaptable. Life is unpredictable, and plans often don't unfold as expected. When we commit to taking one small step at a time, we give ourselves the flexibility to adjust as needed. This adaptability can be particularly helpful in managing anxiety, as it reduces the pressure to have everything figured out from the start. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the need to create a perfect plan, we can focus on what we can do right now with the resources and knowledge we have. The impact of starting small is not limited to personal challenges. It's a strategy that can be applied to any area of life. For example, if you're feeling anxious about a large project at work, the first small step might be as simple as organizing your thoughts or writing down a list of tasks. If you're struggling with social anxiety, the first step might be greeting a colleague or making a brief comment in a group setting. These actions may seem minor, but they create a sense of progress and pave the way for larger strides. It's important to choose steps that are both small and meaningful. The key is to identify an action that aligns with your goals and values, even if it feels like a drop in the ocean compared to the larger picture. For instance, if you're anxious about improving your health, taking a short walk today might feel insignificant compared to your ultimate fitness goals. But that walk represents a commitment to yourself, and it's a step in the right direction. Each small step reinforces the belief that change is possible, and it helps you build the habits and mindset needed for sustained progress. Starting small is not about settling for less or avoiding big dreams. It's about acknowledging where you are right now and taking steps that are within your reach. These steps act as building blocks, creating a solid foundation for future growth. They remind us that progress is not measured by the size of our actions, but by the consistency of our efforts. When we focus on what we can do in the present moment, we reclaim a sense of control and create a pathway out of anxiety and toward empowerment. Anxiety can often make us feel isolated, as though we are alone in facing our struggles. It convinces us that no one else could understand what we're going through, or that reaching out for help is a sign of weakness. However, one of the most powerful ways to reduce anxiety is to lean on the people around us. Building a supportive network and sharing our challenges with trusted individuals can provide strength, perspective, and comfort when we need it most. Human beings are inherently social creatures. Throughout history, our survival has depended on our ability to form connections and rely on one another in times of need. This instinct remains deeply ingrained in us, and it plays a crucial role in how we cope with stress and anxiety. When we face challenges alone, our minds can amplify our fears, making problems seem larger and more insurmountable than they truly are. But when we share our concerns with someone we trust, we create an opportunity for relief. Simply putting our thoughts into words can help us process them more clearly, and the act of being heard can remind us that we're not alone. Leaning on others doesn't mean offloading our burdens entirely or expecting someone else to solve our problems. Instead, it's about creating a space for mutual support and understanding. A trusted friend, family member, or mentor can provide a fresh perspective on a situation, helping us see things we might have overlooked. They can also offer encouragement and reassurance, reminding us of our strengths when we doubt ourselves. Sometimes, they don't even need to say anything, their presence alone can be enough to help us feel grounded and supported. One of the most significant benefits of leaning on others is the ability to share the emotional weight of our anxiety. When we keep our worries bottled up inside, they can grow and fester, creating a sense of internal pressure that feels unbearable. But when we open up to someone we trust, we release some of that pressure. This act of vulnerability can be incredibly liberating, as it allows us to acknowledge our feelings without judgment and begin to move forward. Building a supportive network doesn't happen overnight, and it requires effort and intentionality. It starts with identifying the people in our lives who are trustworthy, empathetic, and genuinely invested in our well-being. These are the individuals who listen without judgment, who make us feel safe, and who offer guidance or comfort when we need it. Once we've identified these people, it's important to nurture those relationships. This might involve reaching out regularly, expressing gratitude for their support, and being there for them in return. It's also essential to recognize that support can come in many forms. For some, it might be a close friend or family member who has been a constant presence in their life. For others, it might be a therapist, counselor, or support group that provides a professional and structured environment for sharing and growth. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to building a support system. The key is to find what works for you and to be open to exploring different options. Another important aspect of leaning on others is the role of reciprocal support. When we reach out for help, we also create an opportunity to strengthen our connections by offering support in return. This mutual exchange of care and understanding can deepen our relationships and foster a sense of belonging. Knowing that we're part of a network where support flows both ways can provide a powerful sense of security and resilience. For many people, the idea of opening up to others can feel daunting, especially if they've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. But vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. It takes courage to admit that we're struggling and to invite someone else into our experience. This act of courage not only helps us, but also strengthens the bonds we share with others. When we allow ourselves to be seen and supported, we give others permission to do the same, creating a culture of openness and empathy. It's important to set boundaries and be mindful of who we choose to lean on. Not everyone will have the capacity to offer the support we need, and that's okay. The goal is not to seek validation from everyone, but to connect with those who genuinely understand and care. By being intentional about who we turn to, we can ensure that our support system is both effective and sustainable. In moments of anxiety, it can be tempting to retreat inward, to put up walls, and attempt to handle everything on our own. But this approach often exacerbates our struggles, as it denies us the connection and understanding that we need to thrive. By choosing to lean on others, we take a proactive step toward reducing our anxiety and building a foundation of resilience and strength.